students, I'm back with your next class. In today's class, we'll start with a case study on air pollution that happened in Delhi. Alright, so see here, case study on air pollution basically in Delhi. Delhi leads the country in its level of air pollution and it has more cars than states of Gujarat and West Bengal taken together. Alright, in 1990s, Delhi ranked 4th among 41 most polluted cities of the world. Alright, and air pollution in Delhi became so serious that a PIL, that is public interest litigation, was filed in Supreme Court. Under its directive, the government was asked to switch the entire fleet of public transport from diesel to CNG. Okay, compressed natural gas. So basically by 2002 in Delhi or NCR, it was seen that the entire public transport was successfully running by CNG rather than petrol or diesel. Alright, why was there such a big need for converting the petrol and diesel into CNG? That's because of certain advantages that CNG can provide. The advantages are CNG burns much more efficiently than petrol or diesel. It is much cheaper and it cannot be siphoned off by thieves or the adulterated like petrol or diesel. So this being the important advantages of CNG, due to which it was a lot of pressure put on by the government for the public transport to convert into CNG. But of course then, it could not be, you might be thinking then if it was to be done in Delhi, why not elsewhere? Why not in the entire country? By now, we are using CNG for public transport. That's because CNG also has its own disadvantages as well. The disadvantage mainly is that it is difficult to lay down pipelines for CNG to deliver it. So that's why uninterrupted supply of CNG was a difficulty. That's why maybe throughout the nation, using CNG for public transport could not be successfully implemented. But then in Delhi, because the air pollution was at its peak, that's why it was the need of the hour to immediately take certain actions which could reduce it rapidly. Alright. Now, other than CNG being used in Delhi, also there are some other measures taken up by the government, to improve air pollution, and that is use of unleaded petrol, use of low sulfur petrol or diesel, use of catalytic converters, which we have discussed in the last class, and application of stringent or strict pollution level norms for vehicles. Alright, now what are these stringent pollution level norms for vehicles? A few of the important facts have been stated here, and which are as follows. On April 29, 1999, the Supreme Court of India ruled that all vehicles have to meet Euro 1 or India 2000 norms by June 1, 1999, and Euro 2 will be mandatory in NCR by April 2000. And that has been successfully implemented. Also, Euro 2 stipulates that sulfur be controlled at 350 ppm, that is parts per million, in diesel and 150 in petrol with aromatic hydrocarbons at 42%. Vehicle engines are also to be upgraded. Alright. Next, Bharat Stage 2 currently in most cities of India will be applicable from April 1st, 2005 and Bharat Stage 3 from October 2010. At last, at last, due to all of this implementation, the result was very favorable. The substantial fall in carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide level has been found or reported in Delhi between 1997 and 2005 due to implementation of these strict rules. Alright. So this being said, this is the case study on Delhi. Of course, the case study related questions have not been asked so far in NEET from a very long time, but then it may be important for your boards. So all of you study this part properly. So now that air pollution being discussed, we'll be moving on to water pollution. So now let us start with another form of pollution, that is water pollution. Alright. So see, we have been using water for all of our daily activities, isn't it? water being our lifeline, water bodies being our lifeline, the rivers, the ponds, the lakes, the streams, all of that are very much necessary directly or indirectly for our survival in our day-to-day life, right? But then even after we know their importance in our life, are we stopping to pollute them? Are we thinking twice before throwing something directly to the water bodies? No. So because of this man-made activities, the water bodies which are very essential for our living, they're all getting polluted continuously. So in this discussion, we are mainly going to see what are the different causes of water pollution, and eventually we'll learn how we can, prevent such kind of water pollution, or how we can reduce the water pollution level. All right. So let's see this. Water bodies like lakes, streams, rivers, oceans, etc. are our lifeline, but we have been disposing into them all kinds of waste. Due to such activities, water bodies are getting polluted in several parts of the world. Realizing the importance of maintaining the cleanliness of water bodies, the Government of India has passed Water Act, that is Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, to safeguard our water resources. Alright, do remember these acts and the year associated. Fine. Now, water pollutants. So what are the different types of things that can be when getting associated, or when it is getting mixed with water, is causing pollution? First is domestic sewage and water pollutants. Domestic sewage is the most common source of water pollution. Alright. Now, a mere 0.1% of impurities makes up the domestic sewage for human use, and it includes human fecal matter, animal waste, and many dissolved organic compounds. So mainly in the domestic sewage, the impurities that are going to be introduced into the water bodies, they are mostly going to contain biodegradable material, something that can be degraded by the microbes. So it mostly contains biodegradable matter which is readily decomposed by bacteria and other microbes. So that is a good part of it, that in case of domestic sewage, even if it is making the water unfit, we can easily eradicate such kind of sewage by the usage of biological agents like microorganisms. Alright. Now, biological oxygen demand. This is a very, very, very important topic under water pollution, which you might have learned in other chapters as well, but it's very important for you to recall again. See, biological oxygen demand means, in a simple way, it's the demand done by the aerobic microbes or decomposers. Okay? When organic matter or sewage is introduced in the water, that sewage or organic matter is a kind of nutrient for the microbes, isn't it? The aerobic microbes. So those microbes now would start oxidizing, or they would start decomposing the organic matter. And while they are trying to decompose the organic matter for producing energy, at that time, of course, they will be using oxygen. Alright. So the demand they are doing for oxygen while they are trying to decompose that organic matter is called biological oxygen demand. In short, it is the demand done by the microorganisms for oxygen. Why? To decompose or to dissolve all the organic matter present in the water. So of course then you can understand that in a polluted water body where there is a lot of sewage or lot of organic matter present, BOD will be high, isn't it? Because the demand for oxygen by the microbes will be high, because they have a lot of nutrients to dissolve there. But then in case the BOD of a water body is low, means what? Organic matter content of that water body is low. Hence pollution is also low. Understood? BOD being high means demand for oxygen is being high. Means there is a lot of thing to digest there. That means the water is polluted. And BOD being low means there is no much of a demand for oxygen. Why? Because there is less of organic matter dissolved. So the water body is not that much polluted. So BOD high means pollution is also high. BOD low means pollution is also low. Understood this? This is the simple way how you should remember it. See now here, it is the measure of oxygen required by aerobic microbes for biochemical degradation of organic matter. Higher the amount of organic matter increases the rate of decomposition and oxygen consumption, thereby causing a drop in dissolved oxygen content of water. Higher the BOD, less will be dissolved oxygen in the water, because that oxygen will be used up by the microbes for decomposing the organic matter. Alright, so here is the measure of the BOD. See how you will understand the level of pollution in a water body. If BOD is less than 1500 mg per liter, that means pollution is low. If BOD is 1500 to 4000 mg per liter, so that means pollution is medium. And in case the BOD is more than 4000, that means the pollution is very high. This is how the BOD and pollution level, or BOD, can indicate the amount of pollution in a water body. Alright. Also, this thing can be suggested by this graph, which all of you should see properly here. See, this being the sewage discharge. See here, when the BOD is being marked by red and dissolved oxygen being marked by blue. Alright. So when BOD was at its peak, means maximum, once sewage was discharged, immediately BOD becomes very high, because then the microbes will start demanding oxygen all of a sudden, because they now have a lot of organic matter to dissolve. So as soon as sewage discharge occurs, BOD is very high, and eventually as organic matter keeps on getting degraded and it keeps on becoming lower and lower in amount, BOD will slowly come down. So when BOD was at its peak, see, oxygen level was at its least, isn't it? But when BOD came down, eventually the dissolved oxygen also will come up. So dissolved oxygen and BOD are completely inversely proportional to one another. In a water body, if BOD is high, dissolved oxygen will be low, and if dissolved oxygen is high, BOD will be low. That's going to be inversely proportional to one another. Clear? Fine? Now, next. Not only about BOD or dissolved oxygen, further there are many other consequences also that can be happening in a water body due to sewage disposed. Okay, when sewage is introduced to water body, there are many other problems that might emerge. Like, first, see this, due to sewage discharge in water, there will be also a sharp decline in dissolved oxygen, leading to mortality of fish and aquatic organism. So obviously fish and aquatic organism, due to low level of dissolved oxygen, would start to die, right? Next, presence of large amount of nutrients also causes excessive growth of planktonic algae called algal bloom. So when the sewage, being a impurity, the domestic sewage is being introduced into the water body, the sewage will contain many organic matter that is going to be a nutritional for the algae, isn't it? So the planktonic algae will start to grow very rapidly in sewage containing water. That will result in algal bloom. Alright. Now, what will happen when there is algal bloom? It imparts distinct color to water bodies and deteriorates the water quality, leading to again fish mortality. Some of them are highly toxic as well. So some of the algal bloom or some of the algae there will be also highly toxic. They will be releasing toxin in the surrounding water, thereby also causing death of fish and other aquatic organisms. Next, also water hyacinth or terror of Bengal. All of you know about it, water hyacinth or Eichhornia. It's called terror of Bengal because when it grows abundantly in eutrophic water, it will be leading to various imbalances in the aquatic ecosystem, isn't it? See here, water hyacinth grows abundantly in eutrophic water, leading to ecosystem imbalances in the water body. So now, basically, see, due to sewage being introduced to water, dissolved oxygen is going to become less. Also, nutrient, organic matter content in the water is going to become high. Due to that, there will be algal bloom happening. Due to that, aquatic weed like water hyacinth will also be able to grow in such water in an abundant rate, leading to various problems, basically fish mortality. Alright. Next, sewage from our homes and hospitals may also possess harmful pathogens, leading to outbreak of serious diseases like typhoid, jaundice, etc. Alright. Finally, the last point is that Wastewater from industries like paper manufacturing industries or petroleum or metal extraction, etc., often contains toxins like heavy metals. Which of the metals will be regarded as heavy metals? Elements with density of more than 5 grams per centimeter cube as mercury, copper, lead, etc. All of these are heavy metals. And variety of organic matter. This also, when is associated, when from the industry these effluents are released directly into the water bodies without being filtered, of course can cause various types of problems associated with the aquatic ecosystem. Alright. So the entire aquatic ecosystem or the ecosystem dynamics among the aquatic species will come under disturbance, will undergo severe imbalance. Alright, so this is mainly regarding water pollution. Next class will start with certain important aspects associated with water pollution like biomagnification, eutrophication, etc. So this much for today's class. Thank you.